Again, from BSP.
Mr. Chair, I regret I cannot comment whether there is a misjudgment on the grant of the loan because I don't have the facts, and it would be for DBP to reply to that if the grant of the loan was in conformance with the internal policies and procedures of the bank.
Thank you, Ms. Cubet. Tama po naman. Just to be fair, you were not there in the discussion
Mr.
and
Chair, may I
the
interject?
presentation of documents by
Mr.
the
Chair, may I interject?
Lopez Group of companies as regards this particular loan.
Are you willing to?
Deputy Speaker,
Please, like to recognize the Honorable Marcoleta.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Madam from the Central Bank, is it not true that Section 143 of the Manual of Registrations for Banks, MORB, sets forth the guidelines on credit risk management to ensure that financial institutions such as DBP have adequate and effective comprehensive credit risk management system? Ito po yung sa position paper ninyo. So in replying to the Honorable Defensor, meron po kayong guideline. Tama po?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We have guidelines that are principles based, and the granularity of that should be laid down clearly and articulated in a manner that is understandable and implementable and feasible by the bank concerned.
That is correct. But the Honorable Defensor is trying to articulate that, you know, there are certain loan proponents na wala namang collateral at hindi maliwanag, pero hindi pero binibigyan ng ganun-ganun lang. How does this Section 143 operate pagka ganun lang kaluwag pala? Salamat po, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, if I may ask the accounting group of DBP, yung pong 9 billion na loan na binabanggit natin in because these were 1996 loans, eventually nagkaroon ng failure 2006. Magkano na value niyan ngayon? More or less. Based on inflation, based on the projections. Ang ano lang po, more or less a projection of what you want. 37% of the past value, 37%.
We have to ask our investment bankers to compute that, sir.
Would
Because
anyone be
it's
able to
like,
answer that question?
future valuation. So
Thank you. Anyway, Mr. Chair, I would think it would be somewhere in the vicinity of 12 to 15 billion, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. Chair. Would that be a correct estimation?
No daw, no.
Don't worry, a case won't be filed if you answered wrongly. It was just a...
Maybe you should apply the 2% per year inflation.
Okay, Mr.
You multiply it and you compound it. You will get the answer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, again, as I've stated, ito po ang mga dokumentong tinatago ng DBP. Next slide. Ito naman po yung nangyari. Minutes of the 2004 meeting, December 16, minutes number 39. Ito po ang mga members present. Ito, andyan ang chairman, vice chairman, and the directors. May tanong lang po ako. Chairman Anyagas was there? Tama po ba? Who can answer me? Corsec of the board.
Based on that document, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Nanyagas was present in that meeting, sir.
Who else were present? Sino po bang nandun pa nung aprubahan to?
Like the same answer, Mr. Chairman, those named therein.
Can you state them for the record?
Yes, sir. The others present are Honorable Reynaldo G. David, who is the Vice Chairman, and the following members of the Board of Directors. Honorable Fernando T. Barican, Honorable Elidio V. Jimenez, Honorable Alexander R. Magno, Honorable Ricardo G. Nepomuceno Jr., Honorable Floro F. Oliveros, Honorable Joseph N. Pangilinan, and Honorable Ray Magno Tevez, Mr. Chairman.
And the others present?
Also present there, Mr. Chairman, are Mr. Jaime De La Rosa as consultant, Senior Executive Vice President Edgardo F. Garcia, Executive Vice President Carlos R. Cruz, Vice President Lutgarta C. Bakirat Peralta, Assistant Vice President Maria L. Ramos, and Attorney Jose Manuel I. Jokno, sir.
Would you know the personalities of those people? Like si Mr. De La Rosa is a consultant. Tama po, Attorney Gerlan?
Yes, sir, it appears from that document.
Yes. And Senior Executive Vice President po, si Mr. Edgardo
Yes,
Garcia.
sir. Yes, sir.
Executive Vice President si Mr. Cruz po,
Yes, sir. He was then the Chief Legal Counsel of DBP, sir.
Chief Legal Counsel. Then you have the Vice President, Mr. Peralta, Assistant to the Vice President. Is that correct? Assistant Vice President pala.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Maria Ramos. And then Attorney Jokno. Is this Attorney Chel Jokno?
I believe that is him, sir.
Bakit nandito rin siya? What is the classification?
I am not aware, sir, in what capacity he was present in there.
At any rate, Mr. Chairman, if I may proceed, next slide please. Ito ho ang nakakatakot dyan. Yung special transactions, letter D. Kasi mahaba po to eh. Minutes number 39, December 16, 2004. Ang nilagay po ninyo kanina, and I ask you, Attorney Adjong, di ba ho may JSS na pinirmahan? Joint Solidarity Signature. Tama ho?
Yes, sir.
Number 1, tinanggal nyo yung guarantee. The bridge loan facility and peso loan facilities shall be deemed released, and the bridge banks and peso lenders shall have no further recourse against such BNPES guarantees. Yan lang ho ang pinang-ahawakan yung collateral, tinanggal nyo pa. Is that correct?
Sir, based on the records available, it appears that the board...
Attorney Adjong, it does not appear. It was done. It was approved by the board.
It was approved, yes, sir, by the board of directors of DBP.
Exactly. Why? Yun lang ang pinangawakan nyo, ba't nyo tinanggal?
I think you have to explain that very well.
I'm sorry, sir, but I would not be able to personally explain it as I was not present.
Who can explain it?
Sir, maybe the record, the
Maybe
what?
maybe we could subpoena one of those present there. Or we can invite first so that those present in that room can, if they recall it.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Pero, again, no, Attorney Jong, pasensya ka na. Hindi naman ikaw to eh. Pero ang pinapoint out ko lang, ito lang ang pinanghawakan ninyo. As an institution, as Development Bank of the Philippines, can you imagine yung tanong kanina, meron naman sa Pablo. Tapos mag-waiver yung mga financial institutions, pabayaan natin yung private. Kanila yun eh. But for government financial institutions to do this, nakakatakot. Yung 1 billion na yun, from day one, laway. Because the only guarantee you had, yun lang pong garantiya na pinanghawakan nyo, tinanggal. Now, number 2, tingnan nyo po, unconditional waiver, accumulated defaults and penalty fees, default and penalty fees. As of December 31, yung pong hindi nila pagbayad, may mga default sila, may mga penalty. 144 million, tinanggal nyo. Tama po ba, Atty. Adjong?
based on records, sir, it appears it was
Atty. Adjong, do not
sir.
say it appears because you were there and you know this. I mean, you
Sir,
are
I'm
there.
sorry, I
in
was
the-
not there po. I was not
I know.
present.
No. What I'm saying is, kasama kasi ito institution. No? Again, Atty. Adjong, hindi ikaw to.
For the
Pero
record,
tinanggal ang default and penalty fees. Tama po ba?
sir. Based on record, sir.
Based on record. So, Mr. Chair, again, I'm bringing this to the committee. Pagka ho tayo nagkautang, alam nyo, sa housing, ang daming ganyan eh. Lalo ngayong krisis. Hindi nakakapagbayad. Hirap na hirap po silang tanggalin yung mga penalties. Hirap na hirap silang tanggalin. Yung mga may kung ano nung binabayaran po yan, pag hindi ka nakapagbayad, may interest penalty ka, meron kang mga defaults. Yung mga mahihirap po na bumibili ng bahay sa probinsya, dito sa atin, in fact, we had to go to Congress to request for a law para lang matulungan itong mga mahihirap. Pero itong ganito ho, 144 million. Ilang pamilya na ho yan? Ilang tao na po yan? 144 million, again, was waived by the Development Bank of the Philippines. Next slide, please.
Before that,
Yes, go
Mr.
ahead.
Chair,
Yes,
I think,
DS Marcoleta.
I think I will urge the Honorable Defensor to probably ask the regulator of the banks and quasi-banks, the central bank, what did the central bank do, or did the central bank know about this, considering that they are the regulatory agency?
I think they will answer the same thing they answered a while ago, that it's an internal procedure and policy.
But the problem, Mr. Chair, this internal policy affects the interests of the entire country and its people.
Yes, I
Can
agree.
we-
That's why it is our job to correct this
Yes.
forever happening again.
Thank you.
For the record, Mr. Chair, and for the comfort of the Honorable Marcoleta, meron po ba kayong reply, Bangko Sentral?
Mr. Chair, as to the particular transaction that is being flashed right now or discussed, I am personally not privy yet, so it may be untimely to comment on the case at hand. But perhaps it would be helpful to say that we conduct on-site examinations, and part of our examination procedures is, of course, to look into the propriety of certain transactions of the bank if it is in scope in our examination.
Are you saying, Mr. Chair? Mr. Chair, does
Yes,
the
DS Marcoleta.
Given that kind of answer, are we made to understand that the central bank does nothing in regard to its regulatory function, like looking into the contracts entered by the debtor and the FIs involved? Because considering that all these are money of the people, I think central bank has an active role in being able to look into all this, particularly the examples already made that even transactions with no collaterals based on JSS only, and there is an action removing the very assurance that those loans can be collected. The central bank, as a regulatory agency, has the responsibility to look into this and probably even monitor before it happens. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Marcoleta. You may continue, Honorable Defensor.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, before I ask this question, ito po yung special purpose vehicle law.
I'd like to make a suggestion to your humble representation.
Yes,
Maybe
Mr.
we could invite the chairman then, Vitaliano Naniagas, to shed light on these transactions. What do you think?
I have no problem with that, Mr. Chair. But I think, para sa akin, no, malinaw eh. Ito yung nangyari, klaro sa akin yung mga
Hindi, yung
actions
frame of
taken.
mind nila, bakit sila nagbigay ng mga ganyang concessions, napakalaki. Diba?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. May Comsec please invite former chairman DBP Vitaliano Naniagas to the next hearing.
Mr. Chair, not only that, because when the minutes of the meeting of the board was presented by Congressman Defensor, it only not involved Laniagas, but other members of the board. And so we have to subpoena them all. Invite them all in the next hearing to shed light on those matters.
Maybe since you know we are in COVID situation, maybe we get first his reply. If you're not satisfied, then we invite the rest.
No problem, Mr. Chairman. As recommended by the Honorable Garbin.
Including that of the president and CEO, if he's still alive.
He's not alive now.
CEO Rinaldo G. David, he's still alive?
He recently died.
He recently died.
Excellent. This happened in 2004, Mike, right? And
Yes.
they are all appointed.
Yes.
Yes.
Who appointed them?
At that time, it was during the time of President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo, Mr. Chair.
2004.
2004. The loans were provided during the time of President
Ramos.
and President Estrada.
Estrada.
Yes.
Okay. So, Mr. Chair, make it of record that the invitation should be sent to all the members of the board who are still alive right now. Those that I have mentioned by Congressman Defensor.